Greetings, brothers. I again needed to record this session for our next topic as we look at Proverbs, in particular, how to study and preach the Proverbs and going through some examples. But before we get to today's lesson, I want to remind you of a couple of important things regarding upcoming events. Now that it's May 23rd, that means our meeting together is just less than a month away, June 16 to 20. Again, make sure to have that on your calendars and come. We'll be meeting the same location, of course, at the Living Word in Manawa. And it will be the same times, 9 a.m. to about 5 p.m., Monday to Friday. So please make sure if we're on time, if you come on time, we'll be able to finish and complete everything in those 5 days. That will also include, not only will we be focusing on your preaching labs, where you'll be preaching your Psalms and Proverbs sermons, but also too introducing the topic of prophecy. And so please make every effort to come. If you are behind, that's okay. I still want to encourage you to come participate. Try to have your sermons prepared and catch up on your assignments when you can. All right. But don't let that stop you from continuing in the course. I've seen many guys who have been behind, even at this point, who have been able to catch up and graduate just with a little more effort in the latter modules. But it's been done many times before, and I'm confident that you brothers can do it. So I just want to encourage you, don't drop out, don't give up at this point. Even if you feel far behind, you can do this by God's grace. With that said, let's move towards today's focus in this session, where we're going to be reviewing assignment 3.20, 3.20, which is the focus on word studies and resources and the exegetical idea for your Proverbs passage. All right. So with that, I'll go through the assignment itself. As you can see, is just like the format for all the other assignments, where we have the instructions for the assignment, then an example from Proverbs 1, and then after the example, there's space for you to do the assignment as well. So just again, you can download this assignment and use it as your worksheet to complete yours, and then upload it once you've completed it. All right. So with that, let's take a look now as we go to session. Actually, this is, oh, sorry, this is the wrong. There we go. Session 13 is where we are at. And again, let's see, we're reviewing assignment 3.20, which focuses attention on the word studies, resources, exegetical idea. Now, just to clarify, nothing new here, okay? What we have looked at with the Psalms passage and these topics, the word studies, resources, and exegetical idea, same thing we did for the Psalms text. It's basically the same thing that we did for epistles and narratives. So as far as the content or the topic, the actual assignment, it's no different than what we've done before. So this will be a review in some cases, but it'll be focused specific to the Proverbs text. So I wanted to use an example from Proverbs, and then just also give you a format and a template. So when you work on the assignment, you can look at this video and be able to, I'll just walk you through the text and what to do, walk you through the assignment, what to do. All right. So with that, let's move forward and first consider, by the way, I just want to remind you, the previous steps that we've looked at, here are the assignments. Like, for example, the first 3 steps was assignment 3.15, and we covered that in session 3.8. So I have here for you the sessions that address or cover the assignment review. So poetic analysis, that was 3 separate assignments, and those are covered in 3 sessions. which you can access on my YouTube page under the playlist Cebu 3. All right, module 3. And then we have the diagram and the textual observations, which are covered in assignment 3.19. And that was the last session we looked at. We mainly looked at the block diagram. The textual observations will be the same as you did for the Psalms. So, but again, the assignment has the example there for you. And so today, I want to focus on these last 3 steps in this session, starting with significant words. Again, the word study steps I'm going to show you and go over with you again are nothing new. It's been the same for others. Most of you have done a good job with these. There's a few of you that need to pay close attention to this to be reminded of the steps involved here, because sometimes I've noticed in a few of you with your assignments, you've not included everything. So I want to make sure that we review this so we're clear on what's required. The first step is simply identify the significant words in your passage, right? And then here are some of the criteria. Again, nothing new here. This is stuff we've covered before, but look for words that are connected to the theme. Look for key verbs, especially in that first independent clause, the first main sentence. Look for repeated words, any unclear or puzzling words, words that are translated differently. And then words that may be used in a figurative sense. Of course, we're going to do other analysis with that, so you won't really need to consider this one so much. But also words' theological significance. So again, word study, you can do a word study on anything you want, any word you want. You can do it on every word, but of course, that would not be a good use of time. So you want to be strategic and identify those words which will be most helpful in doing a words study for. And so these are some just guides for that. Okay. Then, secondly, once you identify the words you want to look at, as you consider each word to study, find the lexical definitions. Again, that's the dictionary definition of the word. It's a kind of short statements or defining the word for you. So look for that. And again, we're looking at the original language. So Hebrew, Aramaic in the Old Testament, Greek in the New Testament. And you can use online resources. Bible Hub, of course, is one of my favorites, Blue Letter Bible, or of course you can use the Discovery Bible app as well. That's a great tool to use to look up and do this analysis. So, but first, using those tools, just identify the lexical definitions. All right. There's usually the Strong's has definitions. Sometimes there's a lexicon there, Thayer's lexicon or something like that. So just write down the definitions, and I'll show you an example in a minute. Then identify how is the word translated in the other English translations. Again, we're looking at the original Greek or Hebrew Aramaic word, but in the translations, how do the translators deal with that word? And then we want to identify that how is that word used in other passages. And again, remember the circles of meaning here. So we start with look first for that word and how it's used within the same book. And then look for uses of the word in other books. In this case, other poetic books, right? Other wisdom books first would be so for example, if you're looking at Proverbs, is that word used in Ecclesiastes or in Job or even in Song of Solomon? Other books written by Solomon, at least Ecclesiastes and Song of Songs is. So look for uses of the word in the rest of the Old Testament, and then look for uses of the word in the rest of the Bible, okay? So just starting with those. And then I would say just look up at least 10 passages. So if you look up and you find that word used elsewhere in the same book, so in this case, Proverbs, that's great. And then let's say you find some more occurrences used in Ecclesiastes or Job, and then maybe some in the Psalms, another poetic book. Then let's say you get up to 10 or 12 references. That would be enough, I think, for this assignment. You don't have to look up every reference because some words there may be 100 or more uses. So just look up like the first 10 that you find. All right, and I'll show you on Bible Hub. It's listed there. You can do that. All right, examine other resources for additional. So like there's a few other lexical studies tools like Vines or um, Theological Word Book of the Old Testament. So it's our Discovery app will have some other tools there, other resources. So just those other word study books. And then finally, this is most important. Some guys that just fail to do this, but this is the most important part of the assignment, and that is summarize the meaning of the word in the context of the passage. So once you've done all of this, you've looked up the definition, you identify the word, looked up the definitions, you've looked up how other translators translate it in English, you've considered additional resources, you've looked up how the word's used in other passages. Now, summarize the meaning of that word in the context of your passage that you're looking at, and do that in a sentence or two in your own words. Okay. So again, this is the most important part. Summarize the meaning of the word from what you have looked at. Okay. So let's do this for Proverbs 1, 8 through 19. Right. This is the passage we've been using as an example in previous sessions. So I want to continue that. I'm going to read the passage. And as I do, think about what words might you consider as important or helpful to do a word study on as I go through. Okay, so let me go ahead and read the passage. And then as I do, just think about words that might interest you or seem like important words to study. Hear, my son, your father's instruction, and do not forsake your mother's teaching. Indeed, they are a graceful wreath to your head and ornaments about your neck. My son, if sinners entice you, do not consent. If they say, come with us, let us lie in wait for blood. Let us ambush the innocent without cause. Let us swallow them alive like Sheol, even whole as those who go down to the pit. We will find all kinds of precious wealth. We will fill our houses with spoil. Throw in your lot with us. We shall all have one purse. My son, do not walk in the way with them. Keep your feet from them, from their path, For their feet run to evil, and they hasten to shed blood. Indeed, it is useless to spread the baited net in the sight of any bird, but they lie in wait for their own blood. They ambush their own lives. So are the ways of everyone who gains by violence. It takes away the life of the possessor. All right. So as we consider this, this passage, let's identify some possible words to consider. And as I look at it, you may have different ones, but obviously here may be an important word because that is the command. It's the first statement in the stanza. It's a key verb. Also, do not forsake. So those would be helpful to consider. Indeed, their graceful wreath you had ornaments. Maybe you're wondering, wonder what ornaments refers to here. So you might identify that word. If sinners entice you, okay, there's a word that seems it's a verb. It seems important or significant, and this is the condition being given regarding his instruction here. Come with us, let us lie in wait for blood. So that seems like figurative use there, but in what sense? And notice it's also repeated. Verse 11, verse 16, verse 18. Maybe Sheol, something you've heard that word. Maybe you don't know what it refers to, or you'd like to do a closer study of that. And again, there may be other words here as you look. Any words that don't make sense to you, or you're curious about, or but choose words that are don't just choose like feet or bird. Sometimes those are obvious, so may not be worth your time to focus on them. So these are some words that we consider. Now I'm going to do entice. All right, that's just a word that I want to do more study on. So we've identified the significant words. So find the lexical definition. So what do I want to do? And here we'll just let me pull up the Bible Hub. All right. And this is the first thing that I do. We'll just do Bible Hub, and then we'll go to the passage, Proverbs 1. Okay. And we'll do, so Proverbs 1, and then notice again, interlin for interlinear. This is and then I'm going to click the chapter so I get all the whole chapter because I'm going to be going down to verse, what is it, 9 or 10? Yeah, 10. Again, here's the word entice. So we see, here's the Hebrew word. And then again, if you notice here, the Strong's number. So I'm going to click that, 6601, and it's patah. So again, notice we have a basic definition from the Strong's. So I'd write that down. And then here's some more synonyms for it. And then notice Brown Driver Briggs has a few more definitions. So I would write these down for the lexical definitions. I don't just cut and paste all this, okay? Don't do that. Read it through, and then you can identify. Be youthful, young man, one in the prime of life. Make wide with your lips. Be simple. One foolish. Or notice, so these are one meaning, or be enticed or deceived. So that's kind of a different idea, isn't it? So it looks like there's some variation in how this word is used. All right, so just write those definitions down. To persuade, seduce, to deceive. Okay, so write those down in the definition portion. Here, I'll show that to you. All right, so I put that down. Strong's number definition. So here's the different ones there. Then notice I summarized the lexical definitions from BDB. Okay. And you may want to include a little more there. Now, how is the word translated in other English translations? Okay, so here I would go, and I have Bible software do this, but you can go online to there's a Bible app online. It's escaping me right now, where it just has the biblical text in different translations. But you can do that. I'm going to use my Logos here and look up Proverbs 1. All right, verse 10. So we have LSB has entice, New American Standard has entice, English Standard has entice. And then so basically doing that, I looked at all the English translations use the same English word, entice. So one, that should tell me something. First, that if all the translations, and here I've looked at 7 of them, 7 of the more common English, more popular English translations, they all translated the word the same, entice. So what's likely, the most likely meaning of this word? Entice, right? Now, maybe we're not familiar with that English term, or maybe there's some other synonyms that can help give more clarity to that meaning. But so that's why I want to keep going. But just, you don't have a lot of variation in the translations here. And so keep that in mind. So if you come up with a totally different understanding or translation of the word, then that may be an issue, because if all the English translations have the same word, it's more likely all those scholars behind the translations for each of them, with 6 or 7 translations, you're talking about 15, 20, 30 scholars, Hebrew scholars, who all concluded that's the meaning of this word. So you're not likely going to find something different. So that's important to consider and keep in mind. So we're still going to continue with the word study, but we're going to take note. Okay, entice seems like the right word to use here. So what does entice mean? Can I get a better idea? Well, then let's identify how the word's used in other passages. And so here I have some other Old Testament passages you can see, and I highlight where the word is used. Seduces in Exodus 22, entice in Judges, deceive in 2 Samuel, entice, deceive. And again, the English word entice has the idea of to draw in, to manipulate, to tempt by way of deception. Okay. And I put a little footnote there. The idea in Judges was to persuade Samson by seduction. For 2 Samuel, the idea was to trick someone about your true intentions. Proverbs 16, here it carries the idea of persuading someone to do a course of evil. Okay, So these were the words I found. Now you might think, well, how do I get those verses? Well, again, remember, if I go to Bible Hub, all right, notice on the right side are the uses of patah. Okay, all on the right. So there, the passages are listed there for you. Now, how many times is this word used? Normally, there's a section where it's got the, I don't see it on this one. Usually it tells us how many times it's used. But in any case, on the right you have, and so notice you have passages from Job, Proverbs. So those would be the ones you want to look at. And then, of course, several other, 28 occurrences. Your words used 28 times. So we don't want to look up all 28, but we can look up 10 or 12, something like that. That would be great. And so that's what got here. All right. I actually didn't put that many, but you're going to want to put at least 10 or more. All right. Then examine other resources. So I looked up in my Logos, I have Theological Word Book of the Old Testament. So there it's kind of more descriptive, more detail, more insights. So it's a helpful resource to have. I believe in the library at Living Word, this resource is there. It's a very good one, very helpful one. And then if you have Bible software, some Bible software will have this resource. And then notice it gives more description. The verb patah appears 27 times. The basic idea is to be open, spacious, wide. Might relate to. So notice it's combining this idea here. The verb usage is seen in Samson's bride to be and their tactics to entice him, to deceive. So notice there's just a lot of helpful comments to consider and read this carefully. And then finally, after all that, summarize the meaning of the word. So what I just, in the context of the passage, and so what I came up with was the word entice is a good translation. For in the context of Proverbs 1, it carries the idea of sinners trying to get someone to join in their evil behavior, making false claims of success and prosperity as a result. So notice I included other statements from the context. Okay, if I go back up to the passage, right? Come with us, let sinners entice you. And they say, come with us, lying wait for blood, ambush. So I just incorporated it. What are the things that were said to entice? And so that helped me get an understanding of the meaning of the word. So again, back to the definition. It carries the idea of sinners trying to get someone in Proverbs 1 to join in their evil behavior, making false claims of success, prosperity. Okay? So notice this is just one long sentence giving the definition of my words. All right. So that said, as we go back to the assignment, this is what you're going to do. I put the steps here that I just did for this example. And so the first part of this assignment is conduct a word study, and you're going to do it for at least three significant words. All right. How many words? Three words. Okay. So make sure you do this for those 3 words. And I have space there for word number 1. And again, follow the same 6 steps that I showed you in the example. Word 2 and then word 3. Okay? So that's the idea. So summarize. Now, that's the word study step. So again, you're going to do word study on three words of your choice from the text. And then what we want to do is consult resources. So again, now we've done all of these first 7 steps. So we've done a lot of work to this point, right? We've looked at the book as a whole, then the background context, the author's flow of thought. We've looked at the poetic analysis. I don't know why I said prophetic there. The poetic analysis of the passage, the parallelism, the stanzas, the type of the poetry, the figures of speech, the poetic devices, all those things. Then we did the block diagram of the passage, all right? And then textual observations, and then now significant words. Okay, we've done a lot of work. So now we want to consult the resources. And again, same thing you've done with the other genres, other studies. And that is simply to identify those resources specific to your passage and read what they have to say. Again, resources can be very, very helpful. We want to do it later in the process, not early, because we want to develop our own understanding of the passage, work through things on our own so that when we read a resource, we'll be better equipped to interact with that resource. It'll be much, much more helpful because if you start with the resources, then you don't know much about the passage, so you're going to be trying to understand everything that the resource is saying. That'll take a lot of time, but if you've done your own study, then when you look at the resource, they'll think, oh yeah, I've seen that in the text. That makes sense. Oh, this is something I didn't think about. Or, oh, he has a different opinion about what this phrase means here. And so it can help you be better use those resources and be more equipped, would be a good word. Now, when using those resources, again, remember, and I showed you this in for Psalms, I think. So I'm not going to go through the details again, but when you go through it, read through the resource. So I like to read through the whole resource. So if I'm looking at Proverbs 1 and say I've got a commentary here on Proverbs, grab one on my, all right, so I've got commentary here from Proverbs. Okay, so you can see this is a really good one from Bruce Waltke. So I've got this commentary, and I'm going to look up. Okay, Proverbs 1. Let's say I want Proverbs 1. I'll do verse 10 because we just talked about that. Entice and all that. So I'm looking up here in verse 10, and he just separates. So notice he has probably hard to see this, but he gives like a summary. So he's going to talk about verse 10, and so then he's going to discuss it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just read the whole entry for verse 10 and note anything that seems helpful. He says here regarding entice, in keeping with the English adage, sinners love company, they tempt the son to detract him from the paths of righteousness and justice. So then just point out, highlight. I like to mark up or just make a note of anything that strikes me as I read through the whole thing. And then what I'll do after that, doing that, reading through that whole section, is then I'll have a separate document where each verse, so I'll have verse 10 on my document, and I'll put any information that the resource helped me with, and I'll make notes of that. So then when I'm done, I'll have basically for all the verses in my text, I'll have comments from the different resources all collected together. So what this resource said about verse 10, and then I may have some other resources. And so then it'll all be in one place, all under verse 10. And then as I go through and put my sermon together, it'll be easy to, everything will be organized. All right. So I would recommend you do that. Now, for the assignment, what you're going to turn in to me, upload onto Canvas, you don't have to do that. But what I want you to do is just indicate what resources you used. All right. So showing that on the assignment here in the example, consult resources. So these are the resources I used. All right. And one of them is, notice, Proverbs by Bruce Waltke. And I had a few other Proverbs commentaries. And then as well, here, let me go over to this. Notice I have a few sermons that are from the text. And I would recommend first that you go, I think I've showed this to you before, but I'd recommend go to gracechurch.org. And here you'll have some, notice sermons. This is Grace Community Church, where Pastor John MacArthur preaches, but not only are his sermons recorded, they've recorded sermons from all the different fellowship groups. There's a number of excellent teachers at the church. And so each of the fellowship groups, Sunday school classes that gather, they record those sermons. So you have a huge bank of sermons here. So I go to sermons here in the upper right. You can see it up here. So I'm going to sermons. I'm going to click that and then hit, notice, all sermons is what I'm going to do. And then we'll get a search engine. All right. sermon title, teacher name. Well, I don't know all that stuff, but I do know I want to look at Proverbs, right? And chapter 1. So this is going to pull up, and I could go by verses if I wanted, but I'm just going to do chapter 1. And this is going to pull up all the sermons that have been recorded on Proverbs 1. And notice it's right here. We've got one from Austin Duncan, but this is verses 20 to 33. Well, that's not my text. But here's one on my exact passage. 118, and then Austin Duncan again, and he's kind of funny guy sometimes. Don't be a gangster. Listen to your mama. But he's got a sermon on that, so that might be something that would be of interest. Might even add that to my. All right, so here's the recording, and you can listen to that sermon. So I'm going to actually add that to the sheet here. All right, sermon by Austin Duncan. Okay, so that's, and there are some others there. So I like to listen to a few sermons again after I've done all my study. Again, I don't do this at the beginning, but do this at this step. There might be some other sermons on Proverbs 1 that would be helpful. I think I noticed one from Carl Hargrove. He's a great teacher. So just as you go through, you might see, and there's some from women here as well that would be good for the ladies to have. Okay, so all that said, at this point, we can go back here. So all I do is list out the resources that I used. Okay, and those include sermons, commentaries, a few online resources to consider. Okay? And then that's it. So just list those. Now I don't want, when you do this, don't just give me one or two resources. Take advantage. There's a lot online. Again, sermons and some of the other links in your syllabus. I put a number of online resources you can get to. So you go back to your syllabus and find that. And then look them up, use them. All right. Again, don't cut and paste. But if you see things that are helpful or listen to things in the sermon that are helpful, just take note of that and then footnote it in your notes. This is where you got that particular statement from. Okay. We want to make sure to give credit to those who have been helpful in this regard and to, not to be honest in our messages too. So if we're quoting from somebody, just in the sermon, perfectly fine to do. Just give them credit. Say it, as Pastor Austin Duncan had said, that's or as another pastor noted. So just not taking credit yourself for something you didn't come up with. All right. So please keep that in mind. Okay. So that's resources. So now we're left with the last step in the exegetical process, the goal of the exegetical process, and that is to identify or state the exegetical idea of the passage. And it's going to be the same approach, the same focus, the same idea that we've done previously for your text. Is the exegetical idea is the author's what, why, and how. This is the author's intended meaning. And we expressed it with these three statements: the what, the why, the how. The what is the subject of the text. That's the author's main point. So just stating that in a sentence. The why is the context of the passage. Why did the author make that point? And then finally, the how. And again, the how is the outline, guys. The how is the outline, the stanzas in your poem. Did everyone catch that? Some of you guys still put, for the how, you just put other things like you make commentary about the text. But for this step, the what is the main point. The why is is the reason for that main point. Why did the author give it? And the how is the outline. So if you have 3 stanzas, the how is going to be those 3 stanza points. Okay, let me show this to you from the Proverbs passage as an example. And then it's just a visual expression. This is where all of these steps are headed to bring us to the exegetical idea, the author's point. That's the purpose of the exegesis. Now, here's an example from Proverbs 1. Here, let me do this. Let's see. About this. Proverbs 1. Just going to shrink it down a little bit. Okay. Here we go. All right. So notice, after my study and everything, I came up with this as the main point of verses 8 to 19. Heed wisdom's warning not to go with sinners who entice you. Why? What's the reason for this instruction? Because there are serious consequences if you do. All right. So you look at the text. Notice verse 19. In vain, they spread their feet. So verse 15, he says, don't walk in the way with them, hold back. For why? This is the reason. The reason for his instruction, to heed the warning. Their feet run to evil. They shed blood. These men lie in wait. They set ambush. Such are the ways of everyone who's greedy for unjust gain. It takes away the life of its possessors. There's your warning. All right. So why should we heed wisdom's warning not to go with sinners who entice you? Because there are serious consequences if you do. You could even put it takes away your life. All right. Now the how. Again, remember, this is the stanzas, the outline points from the author. And so I had it broken down from previous study. Verses 8 and 9 was one part of this one stanza. Heed God's wisdom through parents. And then verse 10, notice, starts with my son. So verse 8 started with my son. Then verse 10, there's the second stanza. Do not follow the enticement of sinners. That's 10 to 14. And then notice verse 15, again, my son. I think that's another stanza break. He's giving another instruction on the consequences of sin. All right? So the how is the 3 outline points as gained from the way that the author has divided up the stanzas in the poem. So with that takes us then, if we take a look at the assignment here. Again, I've put this example, and simply for the exegetical idea, you just need to note it. Write it down. All right. And so in the assignment, there's the word studies, do the 3 words. There's the consult resources, just list the resources here that you used, and then the exegetical idea, the what, why, and the how. Okay. And what is the how? It's the outline, the author's outline. So each of the stanzas, summarize each stanza. You've already done this when you did the poetic analysis. If you remember, that first step was to read and observe the poem. Then was to identify the setting and structure. All right. And so that's where you identified the stanzas. And then at the last step of poetic analysis, it was summarize the point of each stanza. So you've already done this. Then you did the block diagram, which should reinforce that. You've done more study. So now's the point where you take what you put earlier in. Now that you've learned more about the text, you've consulted resources, word studies, diagram, observations. Now you're ready to sort of give a more refined summary of the main point of the poem and the outline points. Okay, the what, why, and the how. Now this is different. This isn't your sermon outline. These aren't your sermon main points, but it will obviously connect to that. Your sermon will be based upon the author's exegetical idea. So the what and the why becomes your sermon main point, and the how is the outline of the author, you will then map onto yourself and your own outline for your sermon. Okay. And we'll get to that the next session next week. But that's all that I had for this session, just focusing on assignment 3.20. And as always, brothers, questions you have, please let me know. Continue to work at getting your assignments done. Just do what you can, set time aside each week, be consistent, be disciplined to keep that time focused, working on assignments. And then I'm looking forward to seeing you come July 16th. Now, one thing, Brother RJ will be contacting you just to confirm your attendance. So please make sure you respond to him. Please be ready with your sermons. Please come on June 16th, and please just be prepared as best you can, and look forward to seeing you guys again. And of course, Brother Stanley, Brother Riddell will also be there. It'll be a great time of fellowship and learning and mutual encouragement and help. All right. So with that, brothers, thank you for taking time to look at the video, and I hope it's been helpful in reviewing the steps. Next session, next week, we will look at the rest of the steps for putting the sermon together, and how to do that for Proverbs, using a Proverbs example. All right. God bless you.